We all know that education funding is also under pressure. Just this week, one school in Dorset resorted to crowdfunding to help pay for a language teaching assistant. And when it comes to special education needs pupils, the pressures seem to be even greater on what many parents would regard as already inadequate resources. So when Hampshire County Council announced it was changing how it supports deaf and visually impaired students in the classroom, many parents were really anxious, as our Hampshire and Isle of Wight reporter Emily Hudson has been finding out.
Rosanna's profoundly deaf. She's got bilateral cochlear implants. She has been given access to the full level of service care. She's been very fortunate.
Since she started school, Rosanna's been getting up and heading to Medstead Primary near Alton. Here they have a specialist unit for deaf children, aged 4 to 11.
Hello, my name is Rosie. This is Hugh, where we go to get extra support. And if it gets really noisy in the classroom, we come out here, and sometimes we can go out for extra classes and stuff.
Every day, Rosie has lessons from a specialist teacher of the deaf, who's an expert in the listening aids she uses. But they do more than that.
It is about more than technology. There's also delivering the curriculum and being teachers qualified to teach deaf children and the complications and the challenges that a deaf children would have in the classroom.
Again, deaf children come in all varieties, and my role is to then look at academically where we think they're going to get to and put a very specific programme in place for them to make the maximum progress while they're here in primary school. Ollie, do you like coming down to the U? For Rosie, it'd be more about maybe sort of vocab and actually conversation and thinking about social situations where the words and the way in which you say things become really important.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But most children with hearing or visual impairments aren't taught in expensive specialist units. They're taught in mainstream schools.
I like being in a mainstream school because my friends, some of them went to my previous schools, and also I can walk to and from school independently because it's a close enough distance.
Phoebe's doing her GCSEs and is supported at her school by Hampshire County Council's Specialist Teacher Advisory Service.
I have a teaching advisor and she visits me weekly. So 1 week she'll teach me Braille on an after-school session. The other week she comes and observes me in class to make sure that I'm getting the right support and equipment's all working and things like that.
That support has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, we're delighted with it. Phoebe has been thriving. She's happy at school. She's been learning to use a cane. She's getting independent skills. That's been really good.
But Phoebe's support could be about to change. The service is being restructured and the number of visiting specialist teachers is being reduced.
We know the cuts are there, and we're very concerned that those cuts are going to affect the support that Phoebe has. And what that means is there's a danger that she can't keep up with the curriculum.
I mean, this is absolutely about money.
Charities which support blind and deaf children are lobbying the council to reconsider.
We have seen documentation that shows that the majority of deaf children will receive fewer visits from specialist staff who are absolutely essential for them to be able to understand what's going on in the classroom. And other deaf children are going to see delays in getting vital equipment fixed. Deaf children in Hampshire already fall an entire grade behind their hearing friends at GCSE. Deafness isn't a learning disability, so these children just need that little bit of extra help in order to achieve the same as their hearing friends. And if this support is cut, we're really worried that those results are going to get worse.
Hampshire County Council says it's already overspent in children's services, so it has to save money. Inflation means even the same funding doesn't go as far.
It isn't our intention to necessarily reduce the amount of contact that many children will receive. Although we're having fewer specialist teachers, we'll be having more Braillists, more occupational therapists within the team, so you get a better mix, in our view, of professionals that can help pupils. We've got to try and save some money across the piece. We don't shy away from that. It's difficult, but it is something that we've got to do.
There's been growing anger about pressure on special educational needs funding. Just a few weeks ago, thousands took part in protests nationwide. Hampshire County Council's seen a 3.5% increase in its budget, But in the last 4 years, a 70% rise in the number of children needing help in the classroom.
I don't think I'd be able to stay at a mainstream school if I didn't have that support, because the school wouldn't be able to provide it to me, and I wouldn't be able to be independent enough in class, so I would fall behind.
One of our big worries is actually by making cuts that some of these staff take that knowledge away with them, we lose that knowledge, or the increased caseload that the staff will have. I mean, eventually they might just go, look, I can't cope with this caseload anymore, who knows what might happen.
So joining me now is Amanda Martin from the National Education Union. You've done a study, haven't you? More than just Hampshire. It's a widespread issue. And would it impact on all children, not just the ones with special needs?
Yes, it does. And your video does look at special educational needs in a whole, but actually the cuts that are going on in schools now are impacting on every child. There's larger numbers of children in classes, there are less support assistants, so the ratio of adults to children is getting bigger.
As it pointed out in the film as well, though, there is more money going in. Why are there more children needing special educational needs supports?
Well, there's a number of reasons. There has been a change in the law, so now local authorities have to cater for up to 25. So the educational health plans are now going up to 25, not to 18, so there are no extra funding to come with that. So that budget's got to come out of it as well. But also, it's just recognising that children have these needs in school.
And there were 4,000 in Hampshire with unmet needs, I think 2017, 2018. It was down by half. It was down to 2,000. So there is a real... But that's down from 4,000. So they're moving in the right direction on that. And they are having to surely keep up with efficiency and reorganisation. You wouldn't blame the council for trying to do that? I
don't blame the council. I actually do blame the government, because that funding is coming from central government. Central government...
3.5% more this year.
But 3.5% on top of all of the other things that now schools and councils are having to provide. So schools are now having to buy their welfare service. Schools are now having to pay for school improvement services. All of these things add to the budget, and this is because there's been cuts in schools, and that means that those most vulnerable people, it may only be 2,000 and it may have been cut in half, but even if you're one of those pupils, that's devastating.
And it's inspirational to see those children like Phoebe and the support that one particular person has made. Would you say it was a luxury to have that sort of support for those people?
Absolutely not a luxury.
It's basic.
These children need to have this, because we have to look at what education is about. I mean, it's very ignorant to cut money now, when if we're able to help Phoebe flourish and be a really good member of society and do the best that she can be, then we're not going to be paying for children when there are issues later on down the line. Education is vital. And when they're restructuring, this is not the first restructure. They've already restructured once and taken away numbers of people. The restructuring now is taking the professional advice away even more and replacing it with technicians.
Right, and this is happening all over. Sir Christopher, it doesn't seem right.
Well, I think that education and healthcare plans are absolutely vital, and there's been a real problem in getting them delivered in timely fashion, and as a result, partly of the increase in the age qualification up to 25 from 19, there's been an increase of 60%, and certainly, I think, in Hampshire, in the number of plans. And there isn't sufficient money to support all that need. I'd be the first to accept that. But let's also put it in context, because it so happens that Hampshire's Children's Services, the director of whom we've just seen on film, that they have got an outstanding assessment by Ofsted.
And the government seems to have put them in a terrible position by asking them to take it up to age 25 with virtually the same money. No?
Exactly. So I think that we're lucky in Hampshire that there is a very good quality children's services, and the Hampshire County Council is doing its best to try and manage on a difficult budget. But I'd be the first to accept, and some of the leadership candidates for the Conservative Party were very much upfront in saying that we need to have more money put into education, and I don't see a higher priority in education than the one that deals with children with special needs, because if they are kept out of school, or if they don't get the assistance that they need in a timely fashion, then that produces very difficult consequences later on. So I think it's a really good investment.
Yeah. It's a problem of central funding, says Sir Christopher, says Amanda as well.
Well, I think it is, and the problem is, and I'm sorry to bring national politics into this again, but you've had those very conservative candidates saying that they want to support special educational need provision, for example, more, but also at the same time saying that they're going to deepen the cuts in income tax for the very, very best off people as well. So where is that money going to come from? You know, this is about a political choice. Since 2010, we've seen the amount of tax that the very best off people pay reduced very substantially, and that means that there is less funding, and we've got to accept that. I think that was the wrong choice. We should have a more progressive tax system.
It's keeping up with the times, I think they would argue.
They have in the UK. It's meant that we haven't, well, it hasn't kept up with the times because it's not
the income tax threshold and also keeping up with a modern service providing these needs.
Well, exactly, and I think there's a lot of excellent innovation that's going on, but when I talk to parents in my constituency, it is a constant battle for them to get the services that they need. The services are so stretched that they're always trying to push responsibility between them because they can't pick up the tab because they don't have enough money.
So Christopher, the public sympathy is with Phoebe and those people and not with people on incomes above 40,000, you know, up to £80,000 a year.
Yes, but we're not creating a false dichotomy of that, because basically we need more money for people with special educational needs, and I expect we will see that when we have a new government and a new Chancellor of the Exchequer. Now, quite rightly, people say, well, where are you going to be able to fund that? And the answer to that is by cutting back on some of the other areas of public expenditure which are more wasteful. I referred earlier to HS2. There are a lot of other public projects which probably...
You want less infrastructure. I mean, that's the other thing that people have argued for in the studio over and over.
But HS2 is, at the moment, projected to cost probably £100 million. This is ridiculous.
Right, let's just go back to Amanda, because this campaign's not going away, is it?
We've gone away from SEND provision and from dealing with these kids. Yes, Hampshire are an outstanding provision, but they won't be the next time that they're Ofsteded, because there won't be that provision there. Those children won't be in those schools. Those children won't be getting that support.
You're also negative and pessimistic. They've only just got their Ofsted award, and that's an award
so
not
we should
just...
be working on that,
exactly, and I think what that award shows is that people in charge of children's services in Hampshire are doing a very good job. Why don't we say so?
I don't think Amanda disagreed, but she's saying they need more money from central government.
And in order to continue being brilliant and supporting those pupils, because actually cuts are a catastrophe for families, and they are really hurting those pupils and those parents. They're paying their own money, they're providing their own support, and that is not what should be happening in this country.
That's where we have to leave it. Thank you.